They told you wars about bombs and missiles. They told you powers about armies and sanctions. But what if I told you that behind all of it lies a much bigger game? A game that's been playing out for centuries, and now the world stands at its edge. America thought they could strike Iran's hidden nuclear sites and end it all with one blow. But they didn't just attack a facility. They struck at the heart of a nation that refuses to bow. What's unfolding right now is not just about Iran. This is about the rise of something far greater. A force that terrifies the world's most powerful empires. A spirit that no missile can destroy. A unity that no sanction can break. And tonight you're going to see the truth they don't want you to know. Don't blink. Don't blink. Don't turn away, because by the time this ends you'll understand why the world is watching. And why they're afraid. The simmering conflict between America and Iran took a dramatic turn when American forces executed a sudden preemptive strike on Iran's hidden nuclear sites. For years, intelligence agencies speculated about the extent of Iran's nuclear ambitions, accusing Tehran of secretly advancing its capabilities far beyond the agreements and inspections. The world watched as diplomatic talks repeatedly broke down, sanctions tightened, and threats escalated. In Washington, the narrative was framed as one of national security, a justification for eliminating what they described as an existential threat before it could fully emerge. Under the cover of darkness, advanced aircraft and precision-guided missiles struck deep inside Iran, targeting what America claimed were covert enrichment facilities hidden beneath. Mountains buried in underground bunkers and scattered across remote desert regions. The world woke up to images of smoke rising from Iranian soil, accompanied by strong statements from American officials declaring the mission a success. But beneath the surface of these carefully crafted announcements was a far more dangerous reality. This was not just another strike. This was an act designed to provoke, to break Iran's will, to send a clear message that no one, not even a sovereign nation, would be allowed to operate outside the control of global superpowers. But Washington was about maintaining dominance in the region, securing alliances with neighboring states, and preventing any shift in the fragile balance of power that had long kept American influence supreme in the Middle East. The strike was meticulously planned, utilizing satellite imagery, cyber intelligence, and insider information gathered over years. Underground facilities that had taken Iran decades to construct were bombarded with bunker-busting bombs designed to penetrate the Earth's crust and obliterate the hidden structure. The assault was not limited to physical destruction, but was accompanied by a heavy wave of cyber attacks targeting Iran's communication systems, defense networks, and energy grids in an attempt to cripple its ability to respond. However, as the dust settled, it became clear that the strike had set in motion something far bigger than its planners anticipated. This wasn't merely a military maneuver. It was a direct assault on a nation's sovereignty, pride, and dignity. In Tehran and across Iran, the strike ignited a collective sense of rage and defiance. Leaders, clerics, scholars, and citizens stood united not in fear, but in fierce determination. The attack exposed not only physical targets, but also revealed the deep-rooted tension between Western powers seeking control and a nation determined to stand its ground, no matter the cost. In the aftermath of the American strikes, when the smoke had barely cleared and the world braced for Iran's collapse, something unexpected filled the streets of Tehran and echoed across its mountains and valleys. Defiance. The people did not scatter in fear, nor did the leadership retreat into hiding. Instead, a wave of resilience swept through every corner of the nation. This was not the first time Iran had faced external aggression for over 4 decades since the Islamic Revolution of 1979. The country has endured waves of sanctions, sabotage, military threats, political isolation, and even direct assassinations of its top military and scientific leaders. But with every strike intended to weaken it, Iran has developed something far more dangerous to its enemies: an unbreakable will. The Iranian leadership quickly addressed the nation, their voices steady and unwavering. They spoke not of defeat, but of resistance, of survival, of dignity. They framed the attack not as an isolated act of war, but as yet another chapter in the long history of Western interference, aimed at suppressing the independence of Muslim nations. In every corner of the country, from the rural villages to the crowded cities, citizens poured into the streets, waving flags, chanting slogans, and raising their voices in unity. Their message was simple: we will not bow. Iran's defiance is rooted not only in nationalism, but in faith. The Islamic ethos that shapes the country's identity teaches patience under trial, strength in adversity, and unwavering trust in divine justice. The people draw from a deep well of historical and spiritual fortitude that Western strategists often underestimate. Every act of aggression only reinforces their belief that they are being tested, not defeated, and that endurance is itself a form of victory. This unshakable spirit is fueled further by decades of international humiliation, where Iran has been treated as an outcast in global politics. Its people have learned to adapt, to innovate under pressure, and to find pride in self-reliance. Over years of sanctions, they've built domestic industries, developed homegrown defense technologies, and cultivated a culture of resilience. They see themselves as survivors in a global game rigged against them, and survival itself has become an act of defiance. The American strike intended to paralyze Iran's nuclear ambitions, and instead, the American strike intended to paralyze Iran that binds its people. The national pride that binds its people became a symbol not of Iran's weakness, but of its unyielding refusal to be broken. The strike failed to shake Iran's spirit. Instead, it sharpened its resolve, fueling a defiant energy that now resonates far beyond its borders, challenging the very power that sought to intimidate it. As news of America's strike on Iran's hidden nuclear site spread, the shockwaves did not stop at Iran's borders. Across the Muslim world, from North Africa to Southeast Asia, the attack ignited a powerful surge of anger, grief, and a growing call for unity. For too long, Muslim nations have watched as one country after another fell victim to foreign intervention, military aggression, and political manipulation. The strike on Iran became, for many, a symbol of a deeper struggle, not just an attack on a single nation, but another assault on the dignity and sovereignty of the entire Muslim Ummah. In the streets of Beirut, Karachi, Istanbul, Kuala Lumpur, and even distant parts of Africa, protests erupted, voices rising with a shared cry: enough is enough. This was not mere outrage. This was a recognition that the divisions within the Muslim world, sectarian, political, and national, had long been exploited by external powers to maintain control. But now, faced with the sheer audacity of yet another foreign strike on Muslim soil, an ancient instinct began to awaken. The instinct for unity, the realization that divided Muslim nations remain vulnerable. United, they become a force that even the most powerful nations must respect. This strike served as a harsh reminder that every Muslim nation, regardless of its internal politics, culture, or sect, shares a common fate when it comes to foreign aggression. The attack on Iran was seen by many not just as a move against Shia leadership, but as a continuation of a pattern that has targeted Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, and Palestine. These were not isolated events, but chapters in a long campaign designed to keep the Muslim world fractured, dependent, and submissive to foreign agendas. In this moment, the conversations behind closed doors among Muslim leaders began to shift. The call for Muslim solidarity was no longer a distant ideal, but an urgent necessity. Leaders who once feared upsetting global superpowers began to face growing pressure from their own people to stand together. Intellectuals, scholars, and ordinary citizens alike started advocating for a new era, one where Muslim nations prioritize their shared interests over foreign alliances that have historically betrayed them. The strike on Iran may have been aimed at crippling one nation's capabilities, but its unintended consequence was the growing realization that Muslim unity is no longer a luxury. It is a matter of survival. The idea of a collective response, of regional cooperation, of economic, political, and military alliances among Muslim nations suddenly gained momentum. The strike meant to weaken, instead planted the seeds of a possible future where the Muslim world rises together, stronger than ever before. Iran's defiance in the face of overwhelming pressure is not something born overnight. It is deeply rooted in a long and complex history of struggle, survival, and resistance against foreign domination. Long before modern conflicts, the Persian Empire stood as a mighty civilization that challenged some of the greatest empires in history. Persia faced off against the Greeks, resisted the expanding power of Rome, and later played a key role in the Islamic world's intellectual and cultural flourishing. The Iranian people carry within their collective memory a legacy of resilience that has been tested time and time again throughout history. When colonial powers carved up the Muslim world, Iran stood at a crossroads targeted by both Eastern and Western forces for its strategic location and rich resources. In the 20th century, foreign powers manipulated Iran's internal affairs, staged coups, installed puppet regimes, and exploited its oil wealth to serve their own interests. Yet even under the heavy hand of foreign interference, Iran never fully submitted. The 1979 Islamic Revolution was a defining moment when the Iranian people rejected decades of Western-backed monarchy and reclaimed their sovereignty. That revolution was not just political, it was spiritual, cultural, and deeply rooted in a tradition of resistance to foreign rule. Since then, Iran has faced continuous pressure, crippling sanctions, economic isolation, assassinations of its top scientists, covert operations, and cyber warfare. Every attempt to destabilize Iran was met not with collapse, but with adaptation. The sanctions designed to break its economy instead forced the country to develop self-reliance in industries ranging from energy to defense. When foreign powers eliminated its military leaders, Iran produced new ones. Each crisis became a test of national will, and each test only strengthened the country's collective identity. What makes Iran's resilience so formidable is its deeply ingrained belief that oppression is temporary but dignity is eternal. This worldview is shaped not only by nationalism, but by Islamic teachings that emphasize patience under trial and steadfastness in the face of adversity. This spiritual foundation allows the Iranian people to endure sacrifices that many other nations would not bear. For every bomb dropped, for every sanction imposed, for every threat made, the Iranian response has been a doubling down of defiance, a message to the world that their sovereignty is not up for negotiation. This historical resilience is precisely what makes attempts to subdue Iran so frustrating for its adversaries. The West often calculates power in terms of technology and military superiority, but Iran's true power lies in its people's refusal to be broken equality, forged through centuries of surviving foreign invasions, colonial ambitions, and global schemes designed to strip them of control over their own destiny. Beneath the surface of every military confrontation lies a deeper game of global power politics, where nations compete not only for territory but for influence over entire regions and ideologies. The West's repeated confrontations with Iran are not driven solely by concerns over nuclear weapons or regional instability. At the heart of their fear lies the potential emergence of a powerful, independent Muslim bloc that refuses to operate within the Western-dominated global order. An Iran that remains defiant inspires a dangerous possibility in the eyes of global superpowers, the possibility that other Muslim nations might follow suit, rejecting dependency and forming alliances that challenge Western hegemony economically, politically, and militarily. For decades, the Western world has operated through a carefully maintained system of control over the Muslim world, exploiting divisions between Sunni and Shia, Arab and Persian, conservative and progressive. This fragmentation has ensured that no single power or coalition could rise to threaten the West's interest in oil trade and strategic military positioning. However, Iran's resilience represents a direct threat to this carefully balanced order. It stands as proof that a Muslim nation can resist sanctions, military intimidation, and diplomatic isolation, and still maintain stability and regional influence. The fear is not just about Iran's strength, but about the example it sets. If Iran can remain independent despite enormous pressure, what would happen if other Muslim nations, some rich with resources, others with strategic geography, began to unite around similar ideals of sovereignty, self-reliance, and mutual defense? The idea of a united Muslim economic system, a shared defense alliance, or a political coalition that speaks with one voice on the global stage terrifies those who have long benefited from division. Such unity could create a powerful counterbalance to existing Western alliances like NATO or the European Union, fundamentally shifting global dynamics. Western powers understand that their dominance depends on keeping the Muslim world fragmented, distracted by internal conflicts, and relying on foreign aid, military support, and political backing. But every time a Muslim nation defies these expectations and stands independently, that fragile balance starts to crack. Iran's defiance is not isolated. It is symbolic of a growing undercurrent across the Muslim world, where the younger generations are increasingly aware of how global politics have manipulated their nations for generations. They are seeking a new path, one rooted in dignity, unity, and strength. The West's aggressive stance toward Iran is not only about nuclear capabilities, but about preventing the rise of an independent power that could serve as a catalyst for broader Muslim unity. In that unity lies a potential shift that could disrupt global power structures in ways the West is not prepared to handle. While much of the world focuses on Iran's military assets, its nuclear program, and its true source of its enduring strength lies in something far more profound and threatening to its adversaries: the spiritual power of its people. This is a power that cannot be bombed, sanctioned, or negotiated away. It is a power rooted in faith, in a sense of divine purpose, and in an unshakable belief that their struggle is not merely political but spiritual. For decades, the West has underestimated this force, calculating that economic pressure or military strikes could eventually bring Iran to its knees. But time and again, Iran's response has revealed that its resilience is anchored in something the West struggles to understand: an unbreakable spirit forged in centuries of trials. This spirit is not confined to Iran alone. Across the Muslim world, millions witness Iran's defiance and see in it a reflection of their own suppressed struggles. They see a people who have been isolated, demonized, and threatened, yet continue to stand firm, guided by an unyielding belief that their cause is just, that their endurance is rewarded, and that oppression is a test of their character, not the measure of their weakness. This spiritual dimension turns every act of aggression against them into a fuel for greater conviction. It transforms suffering into strength, sanctions into innovation, and threats into unity. Iran's leadership continually draws from this deep well of spiritual energy, framing their resistance as part of a larger divine narrative. They portray their defiance not as mere survival, but as standing against tyranny and injustice, aligning themselves with the broader Quranic principle of standing firm against oppressors. This narrative resonates deeply with ordinary people who are willing to endure economic hardship, political isolation, and personal sacrifice, because they believe they are part of a historic and moral struggle far bigger than themselves. This unbreakable spirit also serves as a beacon to other oppressed Muslim nations and communities around the world. It offers a model of resistance that is not based on material superiority, but on faith-driven resilience. It challenges the global narrative that power is only defined by wealth and weaponry. Instead, it reminds the world that the most enduring power is the one that lives in the hearts of those who refuse to surrender their dignity, even in the face of overwhelming force. The West's greatest fear is not the technology Iran possesses, but the spiritual awakening that its defiance might inspire across the Muslim world. That awakening, if it spreads, has the potential to disrupt not only regional politics, but the entire global system of dominance that has kept much of the Muslim world divided and controlled for centuries. And so, while the world watches missiles fly and leaders speak of war, something far more powerful is unfolding beneath the surface. This is not just about bombs and bunkers, treaties and threats. This is about the survival of dignity in a world that's tried to erase it. America struck Iran's hidden nuclear sites, believing it could break a nation's will. But what they've ignited is a fire they cannot control. A fire of defiance. A fire of unity, a fire that reminds the world that true power doesn't come from weapons or wealth. It comes from a people whose hearts are anchored in faith, whose history is written in resilience, and whose spirit cannot be conquered. Iran stands not alone, but as a symbol of something the West fears most: a rising, united Muslim world ready to reclaim its voice, its strength, and its rightful place on the world stage. To every listener, every seeker of truth, stay awake, stay aware, and stay united. Because history is not finished, it's being written right now. May you walk forward with strength, wisdom, and courage. Thank you for watching.